today I want to talk about, as Victor mentioned, the multimodal meaning-making potential of self-representation and self-expression in digital storytelling. So I have a big rock here and I'm going to throw it into the small pond and let's see what happens. Just to start off then with some context. Digital storytelling is defined by various people depending on, I guess, what it is that they're interested in promoting and what it is that they would like to do. But for me, I like this definition from Robin that was published in 2016 in an article where he overviewed digital storytelling, and he defines it as this: as short personal stories created with digital technology tools that are then shared with others in order to present information, ideas and opinions on a range of topics and themes. Now, I think that this kind of like sets digital storytelling slightly apart from just making a video about something, because not all videos about things are necessarily stories, but digital storytelling really does try to present information, as this definition says, ideas and opinions on a range of topics and themes. So that's my context. Next slide, Phil. Yes. So let me give you a couple of other definitions relating to self-representation and self-expression. So these just come directly from the dictionary. Self-representation are the images or the that we have of ourselves based on our own interpretations, and self-expression is the act of saying or showing how one thinks or feels. Now, based on these two definitions and the one previous relating to digital storytelling, I have a proposition for you to consider. That is this, and let me just read it out. How we compose digital stories, the resources we choose and use, tells us and others about who we are as people and what we think is important in our lives. Personalized digital storytelling gives us the control and the responsibility to influence, and I would argue, and change our views of the world. So how does this work in practice? And that's what I want to look at today with some examples. So my kind of like theoretical foundation comes from semiotics, and also looking at how semiotic resources can be used in a functional, systemic way. And Victor knows about this because he's written book chapters with Kay O'Halloran on this, and that there are four sort of big meta functions, if you like, in semiotics, where we can use semiotic resources to do four things broadly. So in this experiential realm, we can use these resources to construct our experiences of the world. Logically, we can use these resources to connect happenings in the world together. Interpersonally, we can enact social relations and create a stance to the world, and textually we can organize messages and information using these semiotic resources. Now, the way in which all of this works is very much dependent on context and purpose, but let me just throw out this first one, is that I sometimes think that when we talk about multimodality in general terms, we often don't think about these large meta functions, if you like, relating to the use of semiotics. So these are worth bearing in mind then, and you'll see as I continue here that all of these meta functions, this systemic functionality is in operation in the things that I'm talking about, and I'd like to exemplify those as far as I can. Now, I have two theses that I want to put forward today, and then I will try and connect them in some way at the end. But the first thesis relating to meaning making and self-representation and self-expression is this: is that the ways we view the world around us influence the ways we represent and understand it multimodally. So the ways we view the world around us influence the ways we represent and understand it multimodally. Now, what does that look like? So I have research data from a project that I completed several years ago, where we did a storytelling project in a secondary school in Singapore with one class of students who were designated as being in the normal academic stream. But I think that if these students had been in any other school where they had a normal technical stream, they would have been normal tech students. But that's nothing against them. That's just the, that's just the way in which the school system works here. But there was one student in the class, Tommy, who, and that's a pseudonym, but he caught my attention very vividly, and as you'll see a bit later on, not only vividly, but in a very long-lasting way. So he's 13 years old. He's in class. We are using up a curriculum time, which is a combination of 1 period a week of social studies and 1 period a week of English language, and they are combined by the with the permission of the principal in the school. They're combined by the class teacher, who's also the form teacher, into a project where we were looking at character and citizenship education, but we were doing that in a drama studio. So we were combining drama techniques with storytelling through the context of character and citizenship education. Tommy was in the class, and he was often just sat at his desk. Sometimes he was slumped over his desk, and it looked like he was asleep. He clearly wasn't interested in what was going on or wasn't engaged at all. But when we went into the drama studio to do some drama work and also to talk about narratives and storytelling, he kind of like he woke up and he became very interested and engaged in the work that we were doing. And he turned out to be a very sort of lively actor, and he had a lot of things that he wanted to say. As part of the project, we went on a couple of field trips in Singapore, and one of them was a field trip to Clarke Quay. Now, if anybody who doesn't know Singapore's geography, Clarke Quay is in the central business district, the civil district of Singapore, down by the Singapore River. And the idea there was that we went around the Singapore River one day. Everybody had cameras or a mobile device. Okay, and so at the end of the morning, we set everybody in the class a task, which was to make a video of the morning's experiences with the additional piece of information that anybody could add to their video footage or other recordings with any other material that they had or wanted to use. And so Tommy went away and he made a movie, and the topic of the movie for everyone was, what does Singapore mean to me? And that leads me to my second thesis, is that the ways we represent the world around us influence the ways in which we view it and understand it multimodally. So going back to Tommy, my own digital storytelling work has been influenced greatly by him. And I, as you can see in this photograph, I actually strap sometimes a GoPro action camera to my chest, and I walk around places in Singapore and also now in Spain, where I record what I see and what I'm doing from this sort of chest level perspective, and that is something that I think is a kind of like an interesting thing for me to do. And I wanted to very quickly, if I may, just share one of my own videos that I have on YouTube on my channel about hiking in Singapore. This is a hike that I did at a place that's called the Kranji Rail Corridor, and I'd just like to show you maybe 30 seconds of that almost randomly to see how Tommy has influenced my own storytelling work. So let me try to get to YouTube if I can. Where did I have that? No, it's not there. Oh, yes, here we are. As we walk towards the center. Now, this part is not maintained at all. It's open to the public, but there are other parts along this trail that have been restored and curated, and I'll show you those a bit later on in the video. But for now, we're in the open. This is as wild and as natural as it gets in Singapore. It's been raining today. The ground is very soft, muddy in places, a bit squishy, but we'll see how it goes. Good morning. Okay, that's enough of that.
We are seeing this in the presenters mode.
What am I doing?
There's a button at the bottom left corner.
Yes.
The left corner.
All right. Okay, got it. It's there. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. Now, what does all of this mean? And so I have a proposition to put to you now based on the material that I've presented. So that sense making in and of the world around us relates to viewing and to representing. And that viewing and representing are, in my view, in this context of digital storytelling, equally active and meaningful. That, in other words, that in order to make meanings and to understand the world around us from a sort of semiotic, multi-level, multifunctional point of view, we need to see viewing and representing as being equally active. And that's the way that I think that this particular thing works, and I suggest that viewpoints that look at viewing as being something that is just kind of like a passive, non-productive skill, actually are challenged by the material that I'm presenting to you now, and I let me just say it explicitly. I think that viewing is active, and I think that it is very kind of like significant in making meaning of the world. Because we can't view things sort of neutrally. We have to be kind of like, in some senses, selective, and in some senses, put into operation a design-based view of the world when we're viewing it. So, one of the things that some people have said to me is that with digital storytelling that is personal and self-centered, is that there's a tendency or a risk that the material that we present will be biased and prone to misinterpretation by ourselves and others. In other words, and this is my own kind of like paraphrase of this point of view, is that personal digital storytelling is a little narcissistic, and will suffer from all of the deficiencies that narcissism presents to the world. Now, I want to try to counter this point of view theoretically by talking about how I don't think Tommy's video nor my own videos are narcissistic and biased and prone to misinterpretation by myself and by others. So I like to think of digital storytelling based on sort of Bakhtin's theory of speech genres as a dialogic process that is kind of like explained by Bakhtin's ideas relating to utterances, and then the associated ideas of addressivity and answerability. And I want to use this diagram as a way of presenting this by looking at utterances as being instances of links in a chain of meaning making that from a Bakhtinian point of view, kind of like, begins somewhere in the past, continues in the present, and has consequences for the future. So these chains of utterances are all around, and we can create them for ourselves and for others, and we do that all of the time. But in the links of these chains that we create, we have three perspectives on the dialogic process, which go like this: is that the dialogicity begins with I for myself, and that would be the kind of like me or Tommy, presenting material multimodally for ourselves, and then but that kind of like extends dialogically to myself for others. So Tommy did his digital storytelling for other people, and then because of the storytelling process continues beyond the story that is told, is that there is this others for me perspective. So the way it works in my case is that I make videos for myself, but I also make videos for other people. I want to share my videos and my stories with other people. And then through social media, and this happens quite a lot now, and I'm very pleased about that, is that people then get in touch with me about the stories that I have published on YouTube. And it's at that point where I know that I'm no longer sort of doing it for myself narcissistically, because when other people get in touch with me about the videos that I make and share and ask me questions about how I did it, why I was in the places that I was in, and all of that other good stuff, then I realized that my storytelling has become part of a community-based practice, and I really do sort of covet this interaction that I get involved in here. I wish it would happen more, but I'm very pleased with the ways in which things go now, because this is part of the storytelling process for me. This is why I do it, because I want to get involved with other people, and my stories, if you like, are kind of like conversation starters, and I'm trying to do that sort of each and every day. So if storytelling can be sort of mapped onto a dialogic process. I'm kind of like interested now to think about what some of the implications for classroom practice might be. What if we want to do digital storytelling in a class? What are some of the things that we need to take into account based on my own experiences, based on working with that research, those research participants that Tommy was a part of, and other things that I've done since then. Well, the first thing that I kind of like, I realize, and I want to emphasize is that digital storytellers as agents that design, make and share personal narratives are central to their stories. And that when you watch Tommy's video, you get a real sense of who he is as a person, how through the self-expression and the self-representation that he uses. In the same way, when you watch me, when I'm hiking around different kind of places, walking along a muddy path or whatever, that tells you a lot about me and who I am and what I value and what I believe. And so if we try to start a digital storytelling process where the storyteller is kind of like incidental to the story that is being told, then I think we've lost the essence of digital storytelling, which is really about not just making a video about something, but actually telling a story where we as storytellers are a part and parcel of that process. Now, if that's true, then one of the things to take into account is that if you start a digital storytelling project with a group of people, is that it's going to go well beyond curriculum requirements. And even though in that study we were meant to be doing English language learning, social studies, and trying to have a focus on character and citizenship education here in Singapore, the things that we ended up talking about in class and out of class and everything else went way beyond character and citizenship, and we were and so it was almost like boundless. Is that telling a story doesn't just have consequences for the here and now. It has consequences, as Bakhtin would suggest, for what has happened in the past and how we understand the past, and also what might happen in the future. Because the people that will view our videos, if they are available publicly, okay, we don't know who they are yet. And in some senses, Bakhtin talks about our addressees in utterances are yet to be, and so we have to bear that in mind too, is that in some senses that these digital storytelling projects are timeless, and that's something that we have to bear in mind. And the third thing that I would like to just emphasize is that even if we can discount and discredit narcissism in digital storytelling, is that we need to be able to find a way in which we can embrace and celebrate self-disclosure. So like showing yourself walking through the mud, showing yourself walking around a shopping mall in Singapore requires there to be self-disclosure. People will find things out about you, whether you like it or not. And the question becomes is, how are you going to handle that in class? Because some people are shy, some people don't want to be seen on film or to be photographed. Other people don't care. I don't care what other people think. I'm just going to do it and see what happens. In my sense, I've come to kind of like try to embrace and celebrate the self-disclosure, because my own videos give me a sense of progression through my life, and I can see how I've changed over the past couple of years in particular, and how I've grown not only physically but sort of emotionally and sort of psychologically through my work. And what I have now is a record of that development, and I think that that in some senses balances the issues that might be related to self-disclosure, because I think I have a lot of material now that helps me reflect on my own life and what I do, and that is something that I think is more important than just trying to manage my image, as it were, where I simply wouldn't be able to do that in any other way. So there's some 3 implications for practice, and I want to just end with these remarks, if I may, is that firstly, how we view and represent our world governs how we understand it. And I think that we need to, in some senses, think about viewing and representing not simply as skills that would be nice to have, but actually being the fundamental, the bedrock of how we understand the world. Is we need to look at and examine how we view it and represent it, and that will give us a much better idea about what we think the world is. And then once we then understand our world and the world of other people too, we can, and I believe with the vital assistance of other people, change it for the better. And so this becomes a kind of like a transformative agenda for digital storytelling, is that digital storytelling is not only about understanding our world, but also changing it for the better in terms of who we are as people and how we understand others in the world around us. So I'd just like to end with a little bit of self-promotion, is that you can please get in touch with me, and my email address is here. I'll cut and paste it into the chat box a bit later on. But I'd like to ask you if you would consider supporting and encouraging my digital storytelling by subscribing to my YouTube channel. This isn't a talk about YouTube, but YouTube kind of like works in strange ways for content creators sometimes. And the only way in which I can get access to the advanced content creator tools is to have a certain number of subscribers. So if you can help me sort of overcome the limitations of the YouTube algorithm, I would be greatly encouraged, and I would thank you tremendously for your support of the work that I'm trying to do.